Here's some information on how to make some wonderful sewn claws. You can make sewn claws out of a variety of materials, stuff like minky or different kinds of vinyl, and they're really a nice versatile thing to include in your costume projects. You can also use the claw patterns to make things like teeth and stuff like that, so it's really a good thing to learn how to do. I start out with my claw pattern, and claws are pretty easy. On their most basic level, they're a little curved triangle, just kind of like this. And I have two different sizes. This one I use for hand paws, this one I use for foot paws. And here's the two side by side. I like to use this tracing plastic. It's a good stencil material. I like to draw on my shape and then cut out the negative space, and it's not too bad. And I also like to use the offcuts of my vinyl after I sew my paw pads. You know, I've got my paw pad shapes that I cut out, and there's always like some excess. And so when it comes time to sew it, I've got my piece right here, and then just trace it on with like a pen or pencil. I tend to like pencil just because it does not bleed, and then also this to demonstrate. So I just fold over my piece just like that, and then I sew it. I back stitch at the beginning and the end just to make sure it doesn't come unraveled when I'm stuffing it. I stop with my needle down when I go to the claw tip. For consistency, it helps to follow the line fairly closely. You don't have to do it super exact because maybe your animal's got all different size claws or something like that, but I try to follow along pretty closely. Then I cut it out with just a little bit of space as a margin. This is so I can turn my claw and not have the threads show. There we go. So the tool that I use to turn it and to stuff it is called a hemostat, and it's a little locking kind of set of tweezers, and it does have kind of a grippy edge which can sort of damage vinyl if you're really rough with it, so you can kind of see where it left a little indent there. So definitely be careful when you use your hemostat to do your claws, because you don't want any little dents left behind. I've definitely been rough with them and had to remake a couple of claws because of that. So what I'll do is I will take it and push it through. So I've got my finger in there. I'm going to be pushing this through, just kind of get it started. And then I start to manipulate it with the rest of my hand, just kind of wad it out the other side. As it comes through out the other side, it's going to kind of be wadded a little bit. That's when you want your hemostat again, and see if I can focus on that, and then you kind of grip in that seam allowance that you left and then push it through out the other side to get your claw tip kind of nice and pointy. There we go. Almost. There we go. And then once you're ready to stuff it, just grab a little bit of polyfill. Doesn't have to be much. And then you start by stuffing that right in the tip of the claw. The firmer you get it stuffed in the tip, seems like the better the shape that the claw ends up being. Once you get kind of further in the back of the claw, you can just kind of push it in with your finger too. And I don't really do much else to trim it. It does help that you don't have any flaps that are left. Just cut it straight across if you wish. And there is my finished claw that I've sewn. Alright, I'm ready to sew it in. And on the most basic level, a puffy paw fingertip has kind of a tulip shape to it. That is to give the shape to the finger, which will also be known as a dart. And when you put your claw in, I find that it's easier to make a little bit of stitching just at the bottom of your fingertip. And you can tuck your fur in for this. I'm not going to be too precise since this is just a demo. So I just make kind of a little bit of stitching right here at the bottom, and then that way I have kind of an edge that I can tuck my claw right into. So here is my claw. The way that you insert it is you go just like this. You want the point of your claw to be as close to this sewn bit that you just did as possible. That way your claw is pointing the right direction when it comes time to turn your project. So you can kind of imagine this line that's made here. Actually, I can draw it with a pencil. So we've got the claw that's in here. You can see that the claw is coming right around here and here, and then I'll move this fur out of the way, and you can kind of see that tip that's in there. This extra, that's okay to have. Don't worry too much about it. And if any stuffing comes out, that's fine too. You just want most of your stuffing to stay inside. Doesn't have to be all of the stuffing. And as you get it positioned under your sewing machine, again, make sure that this tip stays as close to that as you can. And start sewing. Alright, this is pretty messy. Sometimes when you sew in claws, you have a really thick seam. You can use a tool like this. I don't know its real word for it, but I know it as a hump jumper. And what you do is you put it behind your presser foot, and then that levels out your presser foot enough that you'll be able to sew a very thick seam like one of these claw seams here. And it just pushes itself out of the way once it's level again. There. See? Just like that. That's how you insert a claw in your fingertip. And you have really nice, durable, stuffed claws this way. And you can take any type of tiny comb or anything just to get this extra fur combed out. This is just a flea comb. I tend to like the straight tooth combs when I'm working with fake fur. Just doesn't snag too badly. But that is how you insert a claw. And then on the back side, you trim all this junk off. Don't want to get too close to either side, but trimming it'll help tidy it up, and that way you can see what's going on here. I hope you enjoy. Thank you very much for watching, and happy crafting.